Good morning. Just want to spend a few minutes to go over Chapter 14. It's about production and cost in the firm. And this topic can be broken up into four areas that we're going to look at. First, we'll look at cost and profit. Then we're going to look at production short run, costs in the short run, and then costs in the long run to finish up the chapter. So first, let's go ahead and look at cost and profit. Okay, first we'll look at costs. Costs are broken up into explicit and implicit costs. You're probably most familiar with explicit costs, which are actual cash payments for resources. And some examples of explicit costs are wages, rent, and interest. Those are some examples for you. Next, we'll look at implicit costs. And implicit costs, the opportunity costs of using resources owned by the firm or provided by owners. Okay, so implicit costs, we're looking at the opportunity cost side of this. Okay, and if you'll recall, opportunity cost is what is the next option to invest money, use resources like machines, equipment, buildings, land, or invest owner's time. So these are the other options you have of what you're going to do, and that's what implicit costs entail. Okay. So those are different costs there, implicit and explicit costs. Next we'll look at profit. And we've got three categories of profit to look at here. First is accounting profit. Here's a pretty simple formula. This is just total revenues versus total explicit costs. Okay. Economic profit is total revenues less total explicit minus total implicit costs. Okay, again, total revenues less the explicit and the implicit costs gives you economic profit. As you can see, we are looking at with economic profit we include the opportunity cost of what we could have done in the analysis. So we've got the two forms of profit here we've looked at so far. And then the third one is normal profit. Normal profit's when all resources earn their opportunity costs. That's a situation that you can attain when your profitability of all your resources earn their opportunity costs. So these are the three different profits, and we'll complete this section of the chapter on cost and profit. Next, we're going to look at the production side, and we're going to look in the short run. Okay, just as a reminder of what short run is a period during which at least one resource is fixed. Okay, so that's your definition of what short run is. Next, we're going to look at what some of the fixed and variable resources in the short run. Fixed. Your fixed variables and resources cannot be varied in the short run. Your variable can. So that's the difference of those two in the short run, which will distinguish between the long run a little later. So your fixed, you've got to have at least one fixed in the short run. Next, we'll look at the law of diminishing marginal returns. Within this concept, we've got several different concepts within it. Within looking at diminishing marginal returns. First, we'll look at total product. Okay. And total product is the firm's total output. And it can be graphed like the one I'm trying to zoom in here for you. And this is just the total product on the vertical axis and labor on the horizontal. And these are given the number of workers, how much can be generated of whatever you're making. Okay. And then two areas within this curve, underneath the curve, these are all attainable, but you're not efficient, obviously. And these are points you cannot attain given your current resources. So those are some of the basic concepts of the total product. Sorry about that. Next, we'll look at the production function. Now, the production function, let's see if I can make this a little smaller here. shows us a relationship between the amount of resources employed and the firm's total product is what the production function illustrates. Okay, a relationship between the amount of resources employed, like labor or equipment, and the firm's total output. And then the third concept we have here is marginal product. Marginal, like any other marginal concept we look at, we're looking at change. So here we're looking at change in total product that occurs when the use of a resource increases by 1 unit. Okay, and within this scenario, we see increasing marginal returns. And this is a range where marginal product increases for each additional unit of resources added. So we start out with increasing marginal returns, and we transition over to diminishing marginal returns. In this situation, where as you keep adding resources, your marginal product starts declining. So this is saying that same thing, more words there. So periods of increasing in the beginning and then decreasing. We'll look at this real quickly briefly on the map, or on the graph, excuse me. Okay, on the top we've got total product, and right below it we have marginal product. And the horizontal is the same on each, quantity of labor, and then each has their marginal total product. And they have different inflection points here. So we've got increasing marginal returns from 0 up to 2 units of labor. Okay. All right. And then we start decreasing. That's when our marginal product starts going down. So in the marginal product curve, you can see it goes up until we hit about 2, and then it starts going down. And this is the marginal product. And this is reflected here where we're having decreasing returns. And then eventually it'll go negative somewhere out in here, and that's what this is reflecting here. So that's just graphically explaining a little bit more about the marginal and total product and how they connect with the graphs. And just got another, excuse me, wrong plus sign. Got another graph here that sort of shows you the same thing, just a little bit differently, showing the increasing total product curve. And then here is the marginal product, and then the average product curves. Okay, so just another graphical illustration of what's going on at different parts of the curves. Negative because we're below 0 here, diminishing because our marginal product's going down, and increasing here because our marginal product's going up. And then the last part of short-run production is just kind of give you some scenarios and what's going on at the different points. Okay, in short-run production, when marginal product is less than average product is decreasing. When marginal product is equals average product is at its maximum. Okay. You should be able to see that in the graph I put along in here too. Yeah, and here it shows where maximum average product is. So just kind of wanted to give a graphical illustration of what we just described as far as marginal product and average product. Okay, so that does it for the second component of production cost of the firm in the short run. Next, we just looked at production. Now we're looking a little bit more closely at costs. Okay, we'll look at costs now. Let me zoom in real quick here. And what I've done here is put a table in here that has the different types of costs that we calculate, and its abbreviation that we use. as well as definition and formula when applicable. So this is kind of handy when you're having to do some of these, you might have to do some problems in our on the test as you've seen from the first one. So we'll look a little bit closer at this and costs in short run. First thing we're going to look at is the relationship between costs of average and marginal costs. Okay. So first thing we're going to look at here in costs in short run is marginal and average costs. Okay. If marginal cost is less than average cost, marginal cost pulls down the average cost. If marginal cost is greater than average, marginal cost pulls up average cost. So the inverse happens. And I've got a graph here that can illustrate what's going on in the two graphs. Again, the marginal is the red, average fixed here, variable, average variable here, and the total here. So trying to include a graph here to help illustrate what's going on in here. As you can hopefully notice at these different inflection points, marginal cost intersects the average total cost and average variable costs at their minimums. Okay, so we're going through these two curves here, average fixed and variables at their minimums, where the marginal cost intersects it. And then the last part of this section is explaining why the average total cost curve is U-shaped. Okay, and there's two reasons for that. One, spending over the total fixed costs over a larger output that can cause it, as well as decreasing marginal returns. Okay, spending total fixed costs over a larger output spreads it out, and then decreasing marginal returns could be another reason why there's a U-shape in the average total cost curve, which is this one right here. Okay, next under our costs, wanting to again look at another graph. Let's see if I can make this a little bigger here. Well, it's not as good. Okay, there we go. Try to zoom in here a little bit more. Sorry about that. But what we've got here again, the two different graphs here, the average product and marginal product. And then up here we had the marginal cost and average cost. And kind of showing you where this rising and falling areas here. Got the rising marginal product and decreasing marginal cost in this section here. That's going up, this going down. Rising average product and declining average variable cost. So again, this is just another way of seeing what's being described and what's going on at what points. So again, we've got kind of three areas to the graph. Got the rising and falling marginal and average. Then we got the same thing going in this section, and then kind of the inverse happening over here. So just kind of look through this a little bit, and it gives you an idea of what's going on at different points in the cost curves. One of the more important things we need to look at are variables that can shift the cost curves. Okay, things that can move them. Two things that can shift them are technology, some type of technological change that increases productivity, and then an increase in the prices of factors of production. Okay, technology change, which increases productivity, would result in the total product, marginal product, average product curve shifting up. Okay, if there's an increase in prices factor per production, could result in change in fixed costs. In other words, total fixed and variable fixed all go up because they're all related to fixed costs. And the average variable, total variable, and marginal variable are all unchanged. Okay, because we're changing fixed costs. Change in variable costs here we have the total variable, average variable marginal shift up. Average fixed costs and total fixed costs are unchanged. So that kind of gives you an idea of what goes on when we have changes in the prices of factors of production. Okay, we'll finish up the chapter here with looking at the long run. So far, we've focused primarily on the short run. In the last part, we're going to look at the long run. Just as a reminder of what the long run is a period during which no resources are fixed. So we got no fixed costs in the long run. That's how you know we are in the long run. Economies of scale in this model is a point where long run average costs decrease as output increases. So we know we're attaining economies of scale if our long run average cost curve is decreasing when our output increases. Diseconomies is where long run average costs increase as output increases. Okay, so just the opposite of this. So just a little bit of terminology to know there. Long run average cost curve. What it shows is the lowest average cost at which it is possible to produce. And we'll zoom in here and look at some of these curves. Okay, these are the long run average total cost curves here. Here's the first one, second one, third one, and the fourth one. Okay, so these are the average total cost curves here. Okay, so it shows the lowest average cost at which it's possible to produce. So as we can see from our graph, zoom back in here, it would be this point right here because it's the lowest. And that's what we're interested in there. Okay, and then lastly, we've got one more graph here. Again, showing where economies of scale fall into the same picture. So we just had the same graph for the first, second, third, and fourth average total cost curves in the long run. So economies of scale are at this point. And we have constant return scale here. And then our diseconomies of scale are in this area here. So that just kind of visually illustrates some of these concepts also. So that is the story about production and cost in the firm. Again, hopefully this was helpful to you. It's just kind of verbal and visual discussion of what's going on in Chapter 14. I hope this was of help, and good luck to you on your quiz. Have a good day. Bye.